As we all know, India's booming gaming industry has faced concerns over user safety, underage access, and regulatory ambiguity. And hence, to solve for this, all three associations, E-Gaming Federation, AIGF, and FIFS, collaborated in March 2025 to launch a unified code of ethics. This initiative aims to promote responsible gaming, safeguard users, and align industry practices with global standards. Together, these three federations developed a unified code of ethics that addresses key concerns in the online gaming space, including user safety, responsible gaming, and regulatory compliance. The code outlines essential safeguards such as mandatory KYC procedures, age verification, user defined spending limits, and annual third party audits, which we will take you through in next slides. The joint initiative marks a significant steps towards establishing a transparent, accountable, and globally aligned framework for India's online gaming industry. It also gave all operators 6 months to comply with the code of ethics, post which we will submit a report around transparency and independence with regards to how everybody is fared. Now, while this looks an easy task, trust me, it wasn't. Unfortunately, we do not have Anurag right now, who is one of the chief architects in bringing this together. Uh, and I mean, as per the agenda, Devhuti was supposed to speak now, but since she's not here, I will take up why COE, and then maybe Devhuti will add. So,
I think she's here.
Ananya,
Oh.
I am tending the call, but you please take up this section and then I will go after you in the next
Perfect.
5-10 minutes.
Great.
Huh.
So Devhuti will talk about how she and Anurag actually managed to get a unified code of ethics in place. But why code of ethics is the question right now, right? So in the absence of clear government policies and regulations, this is a chance to showcase to everybody in the ecosystem on how we are working as self-regulating body and ensuring more accountability and transparency. Before this COE was launched, there was a fragmented approach of the industry with inconsistent rules and weak player safeguards across platforms. The Code of Ethics aims to unify standards for fairness and accountability. Other important issue that code tries to solve for is public trust issues. The industry has often faced criticism with concerns around addiction, underage access, and misleading advertisements. With this initiative, we look to restore our credibility through responsible practices. Another important reason for the need of code of ethics was the regulatory pressure. Government advisories and legal actions highlighted the need for oversight. The code offers a self-regulatory solution to reduce external intervention, and lastly, if for no one but for self-regulation perspective, and having been in the industry for so long, I can tell you EGF and GT are two names in the ecosystem that are beacon of public trust and accountability by setting ethical benchmarks. I will now hand it over to Prateek and Dhruv to actually walk you through the crux of the code of ethics. What are the critical elements and checkpoints that we wish to perform while we are doing a COE review? And please, it's a interactive session. So if any one of you has any questions, feel free to raise your hands and we'll be happy to answer them. Prateek?
Hi, everyone. I understood that Devhuti wanted to speak after you. Sorry, you're on mute.
So sorry, she'll be speaking after we are done with the.
Okay, fine. So now, when we have understood the need of code of ethics, we can discuss briefly on the code of ethics, what it consists of, what are the major component on it, and we will also discuss on how we are going to review each of those component or how we are going to review the sub processes involved in the code of ethics. So, Dhruv, if you can come down to the slide. Yeah. So, in total, the code of ethics have 3 sections. However, for our purpose, we have categorized the same into the 7 broad parameters, that is responsible gaming, age gating, KYC norms, player data and fund management, fair gaming, transparency, responsible advertisement, and grievance resolution. We will discuss the subpart of these parameter in the next slide. So coming to the first area, that is age gating. Under the code of ethics, players under the age of 18 are strictly prohibited from playing or participating in any kind of online real money games. The COE has provided multi controls related to to ensure that age gating provisions are being implemented effectively. Our review will also involve checks related to look into how the members have been effectively managing this age gating provisions. What we understood that at the time of onboarding, players have to provide details with respect to their date of birth or provide consent with respect to their age, and accordingly, the application or the website should work in a manner that it should restrict players below the age of 18 to participate in any online real money game. So the same checks would be carried out through during our review, wherein we will carry out real-time testing to substantiate if these controls are there or not. Further, we understood that the terms and condition with respect to the player onboarding is also required to specify such restrictions that the underage players are not allowed to participate in any online real money games. So the same should be validated. Further, as per the COE, the intent of not promoting online real money game in the underage player groups should also be reflecting through our actions, and accordingly, any advertisement or promotions should not be specifically designed to call out attention of anyone below the age of 18. And accordingly, we will also look into the fine prints of the advertisement or marketing materials to check if a statement related to prohibition of underage players in participating real money games has been mentioned or not. The next area is with respect to the restrictions which are being placed by different state statutes with respect to playing online real money game. So we will look into how effectively operators or members organizations have been able to use tech to ensure compliance of these restrictions which have been placed. This can be done based on our understanding through GPS blocking or IP address filtering or a combination of both. During our review, we will try to look into not only at the time of doing our audit, we will not only do the real-time testing if such kind of restrictions are there in the applications or not. Further, we will also look into if GPS blocking logs, etc., can be provided to us so that we can actually look into if these restrictions were effectively there in the applications or the website for a larger period of time.
Yeah, just on this point, quickly for everybody. So I guess when we say that, we'll be looking that there's GPS blocking and tracking, I'm sure there'll be a lot of questions around VPN access and all of that to actually, you know, uh, surpass these checks. So see, the objective of COE is not to actually ensure that we do not, the objective and the onus is to ensure that we are at least trying from our end to make sure that these checks are in place. Whether they have been bypassed by somebody, there'll always be that risk. And we have to live with that risk in this industry. But the onus is to prove on us that, at least we are taking necessary steps and actions to ensure. So we'll not be checking data here for the new members. We'll not be going into detailed testing to see if anybody is playing from a restricted state. But if there is sufficient evidence to suggest that we are ensuring from our end that these checks are in place, then I think that is where the line's drawn here.
Coming to the next important aspect, that is KYC verification. At present, the COE has provided two-phase KYC verification, wherein a base KYC verification is required to be carried out at the time of when a player creates an account or at the time of player onboarding. At the time, the player is required to validate the mobile ID, mobile number, and email ID through the usage of one-time password. Also, at the same time, the player has to provide consent with respect to the age. A full-fledged or full-blown KYC verification is being carried out at any stage wherein player tries to withdraw any fund which is more than of 1,000 INR or make any deposit in cumulative which exceeded 50,000 rupees. So we'll check how effectively this KYC verifications has been carried out. The COE also detailed out a set of documents which can be accepted as part of KYC verification. So we will look into if those only documents are being considered during the KYC verification for the players or not. Further, a major check which we'll be trying to carry out is with respect to the documents which have been submitted by the players were validated to understand if there was some tampering or not in some documents which have been provided to us, so that the risk of forgery of those documents can also be mitigated. Further, as we understand, there could be some other documents which would have been collected in past, such as ration card or gas bill connection, as part of KYC verification of someone who had been onboarded in past. So we understood that the COE has specifically asked the members to carry out a drive to take initiative to take a fresh KYC documentation with respect to such players. So we'll look into how effectively this process is being carried out. A part of it, we will also look into the bank accounts in which the funds are being withdrawn by the players. So as per the COE, the members are required to ensure that the funds which are being withdrawn by any player are deposited in the account, which matches exactly with the KYC details which have been provided by the player at the time of onboarding or KYC verification. So these checks we will also be carrying out during our review.
Yeah, and if you look at it, all of these are carefully designed checks, right? So, I mean, we don't want an underage user to actually play with somebody else's or his parents' account and then submit documents around that. So, all these checks are actually designed holistically to ensure that, all these tailgates and checks, gatekeeper checks are actually in place. Go on,
The
please.
next area is with respect to the data sharing. We understand a large chunk of data is being transmitted whenever a player enters into a game, and that data is being transmitted between player's device and operator system. So, as the COE has provided these data has to be transmitted, it should be encrypted using TLS and SSL protocols. We will look into the validity of those certificates which have been obtained by the operators in this respect. Coming to the other area, that is the fund management with respect to the players. So COE has provided that the funds which have been collected by the players, which remains in the wallet of player, should be held in a separate bank account, and the objective is that the fund should be readily available for the players to be withdrawn or to be used as per the terms and condition. So we will look into how the reconciliations is being carried out internally to check the fund management, specifically with respect to the funds which are being reflected as players fund as per our portal or applications or website and bank.
Yeah, this is an important check for all of you. So, COE has clearly laid out that, the amount of deposits that you receive from users cumulatively, the same amount of balance at least should be deposited in a separate bank account. So these are things that, we'll need to start thinking about as well.
Again, with respect to the player funds, our terms and conditions should specifically call out the rules and restrictions with respect to the deposits and withdrawal. I mean, the same should also be effectively being followed during the practices also. So we'll look into the same approach as being followed or not. Coming to the next area, that is related to the fair gaming. The usage of bots or scripts have been specifically prohibited to be used in a game. Operator should also be obtaining no bot certificate and RNG certification wherever applicable based on the nature of the games. And we will also review those certificate during the course of our review. We understand that there could be certain employees who might be having access to internal system or games logic, which should not be, which should actually be the case in case of those employee actually participate in games. So that should compromise the very ethics of the game. So those employees should not be allowed to play games, and this particular policy or the subject matters has to be documented in the employee handbook, and it should be accepted by the employee. So
Yeah,
we'll
and
look
then there
into
are
if this
rules around
policy. Yes.
yeah, and then there are separate rules for testing games as well. So I mean, as
Yeah.
developers, there will be some people who will have access to, developing games and testing, and hence they would need it. But those should not be allowed to actually play with real money against real people, and restrictions around that will be covered here.
Right. Next is around maintenance of game data log. Operators are required to maintain detailed logs of gameplay, including timestamps, player actions, entry fees, game outcomes. These logs should actually support transparency and dispute resolution in case required be. Further, it is obligatory for the operators to provide accurate and unambiguous information, including games offered, bonuses, deposit and withdrawal. We will look into if the operators have provided a separate web page as required by the COE, mentioning the terms and conditions and other policies with respect to the games, and specifically related to filing of a complaint or a grievances, details of the grievance officers, method of deposits and withdrawal of funds. Operators are also required to maintain a dedicated page for responsible gaming. Uh, as per the requirement of the COE, the responsible play web page should be accessible from all the pages. So again, that would be one of the checks which we'll be carrying out to check if these web page exists and is accessible from all the pages of the operators' websites, or dedicated wherever dedicated applications are there. So dedicated sections has been provided with respect to that page or not. And as per the requirement, member organizations are required to have internal guidelines and policies with respect to detecting and controlling cheating and collusion among players. Uh, there could be some tech logics which could have been built up within the application or websites, or as a backend logics to detect such kind of collusions. So we'll check if these kind of detection tools are available within the organization or not.
Yeah, again, so the intent is not to scare the operators with regards to collusion or things like dumping, but it's actually to just ensure that at least the intent is there from operator perspective to ensure that such patterns are caught hold of. It can be through use of data analytics, it can be through use of tools. uh, so the onus is actually on us to demonstrate on how we are trying to ensure that there is fair gaming and gameplay monitoring. That's the objective.
Coming to the next area, that is on responsible gaming. So we need to provide a atmosphere or environment wherein the player should feel safe while doing any kind of business or playing within the applications or website. So accordingly, the player should have options to close their account at any point of time as per the terms and condition. The a procedure with respect to closure of account needs to be documented somewhere on the website or the application. It could be through the account setting or through contacting customer support team. So we'll look into how effectively this process has been carried out, if there was some unreasonable delay in closure of those accounts or not. Further, in case where those accounts have been closed, so we should look into if the operators have allowed players to withdraw the remaining fund which are there in their accounts, and in cases where the funds are still lying with the members, so what reasonable efforts have been taken to refund such kind of funds as per the terms and conditions which have been agreed between the operator and the players.
Yeah, and
But
as an avid player myself, I can tell you guys that self exclusion is one of the most critical tools that we as an industry need to dwell on to ensure that we actually have a fair and a an environment wherein players can actually take a step back sometimes and breathe and relax and understand that rather than actually going on that trip when they're losing, of actually recovering that money. So checks like self-exclusion, whether they're there on the app or the website for players to easily access. If they can exclude themselves, and then they should not have access to log in again till that particular cool off period expires. So all of these are critical elements of the code of ethics, and we'll be checking all of this.
Yeah. So as mentioned by Ananday, self-exclusion is one of the area which has been taken up in the COA also, and it has been there in COA in the right spreads where it clearly calls out that in case someone has opted for self-exclusion and the particular player insists that the self-exclusion was unintentionally carried out, so only in one attempt it was allowed to that the player will be allowed to play a game. But in case where this particular event is happening again and again, in fact more than once, so that player will be required to obey as per the self-exclusion period which has been opted, maybe intentionally also. And then operators also have to define self-exclusion period, which should be barely minimum at least for 24 hours. And once it has been decided by any player that he wants to go on a self-exclusion option, then the operator should also not allow the particular user or the particular player to create another account. The application or the website should also have a dedupe system to actually identify duplicity of such player onboarding in case required be. In addition to this, there is a concept of vulnerable player, and as an additional step toward responsible gaming, federations have taken up responsibility to maintain unified data base at federation level for vulnerable player, and accordingly, members are required to take necessary actions such as reporting in case some player is identified as vulnerable player as per the defined guidelines. Further, in case there is a player who's been categorized vulnerable player, so we need to send a trigger or alarm to that player with respect to the time which has been spent or the money which has been spent on the application or the website. So that has to be carried out. So we look into what steps have been taken with respect to vulnerable players.
Yeah. So again, I think this is very subjective. This particular point in the entire code of ethics is one place where I feel auditors' discretion and judgment will come in place. It's not an easy ask that all three federations have actually taken up on themselves to actually create a database of vulnerable players and how vulnerable players are being classified. But what's critical here is that once we have that policy in place that we'll be tagging somebody up after us after he spent certain amount of time or money and lost, we will be categorizing him as vulnerable players, then that needs to be done. So that's where individual policies will come in play. Now the amount obviously and the time has to be reasonable, but this is where I think auditors subjectiveness will come in play. Yeah, Tanisha, you have a question?
I have a question, and pardon me if it's vague, but how do we categorize a vulnerable player? Is it just on the basis of the amount that the player probably has lost, or are there other parameters that we consider when we do this category mapping?
Yeah, that's why I said, I mean, it's a little subjective, but this will largely depend on the time that the user has spent, along with patterns to ensure that a player is not losing a lot of money as well. So if a player uh, on an annual basis approximately is, let's say, losing, and it's an hypothetical amount, but somewhere around 2 lakh rupees, and all of a sudden he lost 5 lakh rupees in one day, then there are chances that there's something which might not be right with him, and we need to flag it as a vulnerable player. So these are the type of patterns that you would want to look at, and hence
That's clear.
all the
Thanks.
operators will actually need to ensure that they have a policy in place around vulnerable players. Yeah, go on, Pratik.
Other than it, we have the different statutes with respect to advertisement. There are applicable laws, regulations, and guidelines from different sources. So we need to comply to those laws and regulations. And we will specifically look into the applicability and the compliance of those statutes which are there. We will look into the fine prints of the advertisements, which I just mentioned in the first section also, if those advertisements are complying with those regulations or not. So that was the key coverage as well as the our review procedure which we'll carry out. This was the brief.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you, Pratik,
Thank you.
for your insights on how COE audit is typically done from our end. I hope
Thanks.
everyone attending will now be more informed on what to expect once we actually take you through our project plans and slides around that. So, speaking of the Code of Ethics audit, we have with us Gagan Kharbanda from Passion Gaming. Gagan has actually undergone this audit last year with us, and I can secretly tell you that he was one of the top point scorer in the scorecard that we published. Over to you, Gagan, to share your experience of how was it to get this audit done. Gagan, you're on mute, sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Ananay, for the kind words. And hi, everyone. I'm Gagan from Passion Gaming, and happy to be speaking to all about you with the COE. As far as I know that many of you are going through the COE for the first time, and obviously there is a bit of stress and confusion at all that what is it and how it will be perceived and what will happen at the end, how the auditors will react to the things. So I just want to share what we have done so far. And as Ananya has told last time, he was the one who has taken our audit. And before Ananya, we have also got the auditor a couple of times. And thankfully, we cleared the audit all the time. So first of all, compliance is not just about passing an audit. It's just making sure that we are working in the right way, following the right rules and doing the right thing. And if we perceive that notion in us, it will be very easy for us to do the audits. So last year, like our company did really well, as I said, because we did a bit of planning, a teamwork, and the most important thing, according to me, is being honest with auditors. Because sometimes we try to manipulate the things that doesn't work with them. They know, as they are doing audit of a lot of companies, they know what are the shortcomings, what exactly is required. So if you're trying to mitigate the things, trying to take a shortcut, they will never work with them. So just want to tell that how we work and that may be helpful for you. Like when we get the COE document, we break it down. We put it in an Excel sheet, and along with that, we add multiple columns. The first column we add is a department, whether it's the operational department or the technical department or the marketing department or the finance department or whatever department is assigned to that. We then have a meeting with all the department heads and assign the roles and responsibility to them. And then we discuss this is what is expected from you. We discuss to a detail, like Ananya has told that players balance should be in the separate account. What does separate account means? What are the threshold we should maintain all the time? So we discuss to all the nuances of all those things. And then we keep a tracker of these things on, we have a week on week basis meetings that where we are reached, is there any shortcoming, any confusion we are facing? And that's how we prepare for the audits. And what I understand is there are two important things into the audit. One is a walkthrough, where the auditors will come to your office and they will just understand your app, how the app works, and understand your backend system and how these things are going on. And secondly, is the documentation and the database. That is actually the proof that what you have shown on the app and in the backend, they're working in the same way. And believe me, if you can explain clearly and show proof like emails, reports, screenshots, you have crossed your audit 90%. That is, I'm saying with my experience, right? And another very important is, as I said, it always be honest. If you have some gaps, like I always say, if I am not done anything, I raise my hand and say, this is not done from our side. As we know, there is some gap from our side. Our technical team was busy. This is not practically implementable due to some operation restriction. And we confess that thing. And beside that thing, what we do, we express that thing to us. And of course, they understand that our intent is clear and we want to achieve the same result what is being tried by doing the audit. And if they are satisfied, they mark it clear, right? And So my simple advice is like start early and break the things down in small departments, small teams, assign and track the task, and keep your documentation ready. So yes, that is how we used to do it so far.
No, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gagan. And I think for all the operators who will be actually undergoing this for the first time, our intent is actually not to conduct an audit and find faults, and it's actually to help you. Why we've been assigned by EGF to take care of this audit is because we believe it's a journey that you guys will go through, right? So like Gagan said that he's been on that journey, they've got it done 3 or 4 times now. So over the journey, they've learned on how to improve their processes and governance practices. This is where we come in. Our aim is not to actually tell you what's going wrong, but it's to also help you and improve that so that you clear the audit. There are no checks and balances that you're not aware of, which you are required to comply with. So that's the objective of the entire exercise. It's not to fault find, it's actually to help you in that growth journey as you guys
Right.
grow as well. So thank you so much, Gagan, for
Thank you,
sharing on
Anil.
your experience. It has been a pleasure working with you.
Same here.
Yeah. Moving on to some of the operational aspects now on how the engagement will work. So as I explained previously, EGF and GT, we've been long-standing partners in this important initiative. If I can give you a brief about Grant Thornton, we are around 75,000 plus people with global revenues of around $8 billion, 700 offices spread across 150 countries. In India alone, we are around 11,000 people with 19 offices and ranked top 5 consulting firms in the country. With this scale and size also comes a experienced and trained team of professionals who've done this in the past and have developed a mature methodology with comprehensive testing procedures and high quality documentation of testing procedures. So we'll approach this COE actually in 3 phases. The first one, which is the planning phase, this workshop is a part of the planning phase. The aim is to provide you clarity of the methodology, assessment parameters, and the evaluation framework. However, this does not stop here. We will further have working workshops with EGF leaderships, Devhuti, Aditya, Anurag, to freeze out on our checklist and audit program along with stakeholder mapping. The next phase will be the execution phase. In this phase, we hit the ground. While for most of the new operators and the first time, COE auditees, it will be an offline type of a review wherein we will share an initial data request with you and schedule walkthrough calls with relevant departments and HODs to understand how we are complying with the COE. We will share a comprehensive data and information request pack, along including a structured information document request aligned to the Code of Ethics assessment framework. We might also use data analytics to identify specific patterns, but most of these checks will be done on test of design basis. So unlike Gagan, wherein we hit the offices and we try and do a 1 week thorough data validation checks, this will be more of an offline review, which will largely be done on the design basis to actually see at this stage of your maturity in the organization, how are you guys trying to adopt the code of ethics rather than actually be there at this point. So that's the broader objective. The last phase obviously will be the reporting phase. This is where we discuss and finalize the observations and management action plan. Like I said, the aim is not to do an audit here, but also help you comply with the code of ethics. Our actions will not be driven to find faults, but to actually help in remediating wherever gaps can be quickly resolved. Hence, like Gagan said, I think the request to all of you would be to be open and transparent. Seek help from Prateek, Dhruv, me, wherever required, to actually help you on this journey and make sure that you're compliant with the code of ethics. In terms of timelines, we plan to release the IDR, which is the initial data request, in first week of June and give you guys at least 2 weeks to gather the information. In third week of June is when we plan to have walkthrough discussions and see information received is correct, and also explain you why we are requesting for certain information, and wherever required, we'll be collecting samples. Basis this, we will summarize and release draft reports by mid-July. The approach will obviously be different for gold and platinum members given their size and volume, since it takes longer time with them and there'll be site visits. Once we are done with all members, we will submit final report to EGF by 15th August, and hopefully all of you will be issued by compliance certificates and seals from EGF. So this is largely how we've structured this. Over to Devhuti to actually now walk you guys through on how she and Anurag actually managed to pull this off together. And for her words, Devhuti.
Thank you. I really like the way you say we pulled this off. It just kind of makes it sound like okay. But yes, so first of all, a really warm welcome to all of our associate members on the call. I'm really sorry, I'm actually in Bangalore right now and I'm taking this from a hotel lobby. So that's why, in the interest of everyone, I haven't turned on my video. Um, but thank you all for being here. Thank you all for choosing to be a part of the EGF community. And let me now introduce to you the journey and the genesis of the Code of Ethics. As some of you may be aware and following the developments, the policy developments, or the regulatory developments in our sector, we have been for the last 3 years trying to get our sector regulated by the government, by the central government ideally. And in this regard, the online gaming rules were published in 2023 by the Ministry of Electronics and IT, which has been notified as our nodal ministry for the subject matter of online gaming. Although these online gaming rules came out in 2023, they were not enforced. And because they haven't been enforced, all of the guardrails, all of the guidelines that we had suggested to MITI to include in these online gaming rules, which by the way underwent a lot of public consultation and feedback. And so all of the, these guardrails which we wanted for the industry, they have not been enacted. So what do? We want to be distinguished as the good players, the ethical players, the right players. We want to be distinguished from the illegal operators or the ones who are operating unethically or illegally, and the ones who are in fact the breeding ground of so much of players fraud, players losing money, there being no helpline number, etc., to help the players, the distressed players, and all of those distressed players moving towards suicides and self-harm, etc., etc. So we want to be distinguished as the industry which is responsible, industry which is self-regulating itself voluntarily and holding itself to a really high standard. This has been our DNA. This has been our basic core principle from day one at EGF. We were the first federation in the entire Indian online gaming industry to adopt a code of conduct back in 2019. And the code of conduct was so exhaustive and so detailed and had so many checks and balances to ensure player protection, to ensure supporting vulnerable players, etc., etc. That became our code of conduct at EGF, became the benchmark for the industry. Everybody would say that look at EGF's code of conduct and look at the high standards they hold themselves to. If you talk to anybody in the gaming community in India, everybody will tell you that EGF is distinguished by its code of conduct. And the fact that we have been getting our members audited since 2019, it's been 6 years now. So while EGF was the only one who was doing a code of conduct audit and others were not, and we kept working closely with the government that we are self-regulating ourselves, and the government said yes, very great, very good, but only you are doing it, the others are not doing it. So how do we have trust and how do we have confidence in the industry overall? So to solve for this problem, we obviously work with the government to get the online gaming rules out, but since those rules are not enforced and not binding on the entire industry, hence, to solve this problem, we took an alternate route, which means that EGF engaged with the other two federations who represent majority of the industry, namely AIGF, All India Gaming Federation, and FIFS, Federation of Indian Fantasy Sports. We engaged with our peers FIFS and AIGF, and we requested them to also voluntarily adopt a code of conduct. We shared our own code of conduct, EGF's code of conduct, with the other two federations, and we requested everybody to be united and to adopt this code of conduct in a united manner, so that we can unitedly tell the government that as an industry we are self-regulating ourselves very effectively. After a lot of convincing and negotiations and discussions and like all the effort that you can imagine, we are finally very happy, very happy to share with all of you that the original EGF code of conduct has now been adopted by the other two federations as well, the as the code of ethics, which is the common code of ethics to be applied across all three federations members, which is a total of more than 200 operators and covers the vast majority of the industry. The new code of ethics is a shortened version, reduced version of EGF's original code of conduct, which is very detailed. But just to ensure that all the operators who have till now never sat for audit, and this will be the first time that they will be sitting for an audit, so just to ensure that it is a little easy for them to smooth into this transition into this audit, we have made the code of ethics a little less detailed than what EGF members have been following all these 6 years. So the new revised code of ethics retains the core principles of player protection, responsible advertising, and assisting vulnerable players, but it's a toned down document. Now, this document is a unified document, which means 200 gaming operators are following the same principles, following the same compliance requirements. And there is absolutely no room for any kind of exception on the code of ethics. All three federations have signed up together on a document declaring that there will be no exception to any of its members to follow this code. Everybody will need to follow this code, no exceptions and no leniency. This code, there is no compliance point in this code which will not be complied to. Every point needs to have compliance. We are actively monitoring a grid wherein we are plotting each member of each federation and monitoring whether the audit for that member has been scheduled and when is that audit starting off, what is the audit result, whether that member has passed or failed, and accordingly we will revise our membership with that operator. And this is an understanding amongst all three federations. So no matter which federation you take a membership of now, you cannot escape the audit on the code of ethics. Previously, this was not the case. Some members would take a membership, some operators would take a membership with federations that did not mandate a code of conduct. However, today time has changed, and now this code of ethics is binding and mandatory and compulsory across the entire industry. So this is the genesis of the code of ethics. What started out as an EGF initiative is now adopted by the entire industry as the standard, as the benchmark. And we take a lot of pride in this. And so we thank all of you once again to choose EGF, to be a part of EGF, and to get on to this code of ethics journey together. Thanks, Ananya. Thanks for giving me this time to talk about it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Devhuti. And the reason I keep saying you pulled it off, because I know it was a very difficult task. It still is a very difficult task to implement it across the entire industry. But kudos to both you and Anurag for actually pulling this off and making it an important initiative in the interest of transparency and accountability for the entire industry. So yes, open to questions now. Uh, any questions around any of the parameters or checks on how we plan to do it? Any operational questions? Happy to answer.
Hey, hi. I think I'm also traveling, and you might, I mean, you might see a lot of noise from my background. But I just have a quick question. So,
Sure.
RNG certificate and this no board certificate is too expensive for any new, player in the market. So, is this a requirement for all the players? Because if you ask me, there are basically a lot of compliance which we are right now following. RNG certificate, we had to basically pay 4 lakh rupees. Now, although we are in process to get the, the snowboard certificate also. However, it costs like 8 lakh, 10 lakh rupees just to set up the entire process, including the, escrow account and all. So my question is that for the new players in the market, is this the basic requirement that everybody should have this?
Chirag, so thank you for the question, and it's a good question. While the Code of Ethics categorically mentions that you need to have these certifications and they need to be displayed on your website as well, I think, like I said, what is critical is the intent. So how else are you ensuring that there are no bots in the game that we are providing to players? If there are checks to certify to assure the auditors and us that uh, while we you don't have a certificate as of now, but because of certain checks that you're doing, you are ensuring that there are no bots in the game and the game is fair and transparent. That suffices the audit requirement. But yes, I mean, if you have a certificate, then it's a clear tick mark, right?